Alright people, so welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series on current affairs. Now today we are going to cover current affairs related to 10th of August. So all the important news items that featured in today's newspapers shall be covered in today's lecture. Okay, so we will focus only on important news items. Remember this part because we are supposed to cover only those current affairs which are relevant for UPSC examination, right? Now, please make this lecture series a part of your daily routine because if you'll do that, you'll get a hold over current affairs. And getting a hold over current affairs is extremely pertinent. Why? Because 50% of your paper will be related to current affairs, directly or indirectly. So it's important for you to get a hold of these current affairs, right? And that could be done if you make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. So do that, right? All right, then, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away dive into today's lecture. So let's begin. So, daily current affairs, 10th of August, and here are the topics that we shall cover. So topic number 1, homeopathic doctors to prescribe modern drugs. Homeopathic doctors can prescribe allopathic medicine in Maharashtra, certain kinds of allopathic medicines. So there is a huge debate around this issue, so we will investigate this matter. Then topic number 2 is related to creamy layer not applicable to SC/ST quota. Creamy layer is applicable to OBC quota, but recently central government has filed an affidavit in the Honorable Supreme Court saying that the demand for creamy layer in case of SC/STs shall not be entertained. Okay. Then, a parliamentary committee published its report on India's Arctic policy. India needs the Arctic region and it needs a proper comprehensive policy, budget, resources deployed in Arctic region. Arctic region is important for India. How? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about a very important development from the perspective of India's security as well as geopolitics. And that is Pakistan-Saudi-Turkey Defense Pact, also known as the Mecca Defense Pact. Okay, so what is this Defense Pact and what are the strategic implications for India in this case? We'll investigate this matter as well, right? So these are the 4 news items that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number 1, and that is homeopathic doctors to prescribe modern drugs. Now you see, Maharashtra has recently allowed homeopathic doctors to prescribe certain kinds of allopathic modern medicines. Okay, generally homeopathic doctors can only prescribe homeopathic medicines. Allopathic modern doctors prescribe modern medicines. Ayurvedic doctors prescribe Ayurvedic medicines. They are separated in watertight silos. But recently, Maharashtra government has allowed some simple medicines, which are modern medicines. They can be prescribed by homeopathic doctors as well, provided they complete a 1-year pharmacology course, right? Now, this has raised a huge issue, huge debate, because allopathic doctors are saying that we are trained for these medicines, we complete required degrees and all that stuff, right? There is a proper education behind this. How can homeopathic doctors be able to or should be allowed to prescribe these medicines? They are not trained in this, right? So there is this huge debate. Now we should be aware of arguments presented by both sides. What are the government arguments for allowing this? And what are the arguments presented by the critics of this policy, right? So let's investigate this matter. So homeopathic doctors to prescribe modern drugs. So Maharashtra government operationalized a long-stalled provision from Maharashtra Homeopathic Practitioner and Maharashtra Medical Council Amendment Act. So they had amended the law in 2014, but it was not implemented. The law was made for homeopathic doctors to prescribe modern medicines, but it was not operationalized, right? Now it has been operationalized. Now, the rule allows registered Bachelor of Homeopathic Medicines to complete 1-year certificate course in modern pharmacology, to register under a separate register maintained by Maharashtra Medical Council and prescribe specified modern medicines within a defined scope. So homeopathic doctors, after completing this course, 1-year course, and registering themselves with Maharashtra Medical Council can prescribe not all, only some normal primary modern medicines. That's the limited scope of this. So what is the entire paraphernalia for this? Okay, so primary qualification, well, you need a bachelor's degree in homeopathic medicine from recognized homeopathic college. Then you need to do 1-year bridge course, certificate course in modern pharmacology. Then you need to register, okay? And you need to register in 2 registers, okay? One in Homeopathic Council register, okay? National Commission for Homeopathy maintains a register for all the doctors, homeopathic doctors. Register over there, and you have to have another registration with Maharashtra Medical Council. Clear? So there is a requirement of dual registration. And what is the practice framework? Authorized to prescribe defined modern medicines, not all, like low level, paracetamol and all, at primary level. So not complicated medicines, primary medicines, right? Now, there is a statutory basis for this. So Maharashtra government amended this law, clear? Then they created scope for this certificate course. This certificate course was now being taught at various universities. So was designed by Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, and they have been teaching this. Implementation trigger. So this amendment came way back in 2014. Why now? Why are you implementing this amendment now in 2026? Okay, what is the implementation trigger? Although stalled for over a decade due to legal challenges and regulatory friction, the State Medical Education Department instructed Maharashtra Medical Council to begin this registration. Okay, so it was already stalled, sparking the current legal battle, the current controversy. Now let's talk about the arguments on both sides of the aisle, right? So first let's talk about arguments in favor of this policy, the arguments presented by the government in favor of the policy. Number one, bridging rural primary care gaps. Already there are a lot of homeopathic doctors practicing in rural areas. Okay, now they are already prescribing some low level allopathic medicines like paracetamol or many other gastric medicines. Okay, low level medicines, they're already doing it. So if they're already doing it, why not give them a proper course on it and then allow them to do it so as to protect them from any legal challenges, right? Although India passes out over 1 lakh MBBS graduates annually, many specialize or relocate to urban centers. Already there are many MBBS doctors, but most of them prefer to practice in urban areas. So there is this huge deficit in rural areas, especially in primary healthcare centers, right? Now homeopathic doctors can fill this gap. So they are filling this gap. Plus the government thought that they are already doing it, so why not give them a proper certification course for this, and then they can prescribe it. So these arguments have some weight, but then there are arguments against this policy. First of all, the argument is presented by actual allopathic doctors. They are saying that we are trained for these medicines. There is a 5.5 year medical MBBS course, then there is MD, 3 years of MD, then specialization, super specialization. There is at least 8 to 9 years of rigorous studying, and then only we are qualified to do this. How can 1 year of pharmacology course, certification course, compete with this? So this is problematic. And if you're doing so, then you are putting the lives of patients in danger. Because what if the homeopathic doctor commits some error? Okay, this is there. Then there is opposition from National Council of Homeopathy only. Homeopathic doctors are regulated by National Council of Homeopathy. National Council of Homeopathy is saying that this is a wrong practice, because they are saying that if homeopathic doctors are allowed to prescribe modern medicine, then they won't practice pure homeopathy. Okay, pure homeopathy would get diluted and they would shift towards modern medicines only. This is a challenge, this is problematic. Plus, various Supreme Court judgments are against this policy. Okay, there was this famous case, Mukhtiar Chand versus State of Punjab in 1998, and various other Supreme Court rulings which said that cross-pathy is not allowed, which means Ayurvedic doctors should prescribe Ayurvedic medicines, homeopathy, allopathic or modern doctors, allopathic medicines. There shouldn't be cross-pathy unless a central law approves it. This is a state law. So there is this legal challenge as well, right? So this is the situation. Now, there is a table. I have mentioned this table. Whatever we have discussed is summarized in this table, right? Difference between modern medicine, homeopathy system and this bridge certification course, okay? So you need to know for modern medicine, which is the regulatory authority, for homeopathy, which is the regulatory authority, primary qualification, core philosophy, registration, all of these. Trivia, basic trivia is given in this table. It's a summary table, so do check it out from the notes, right? And now let's talk about, in the end, the challenges to this policy. Dual registration is required for these doctors. One, they have to register in the register of Maharashtra Medical Council, and the other National Council of Homeopathy. So this would create regulatory challenges. Who would be the regulatory authority over these doctors? This is there. Then there is lack of central regulatory approval. National Council of Homeopathy is not approving this. National Medical Council is not approving this, which is the council for allopathic doctors. So this challenge is there. Plus, looking at Maharashtra, other states might borrow this policy and come up with a similar policy. So there is a threat, or there is a challenge of spillover effect, because rural-urban gap is there in many states. So many states might look towards this policy as a solution to this rural-urban health deficit. So this is a challenge, right? That's about it. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is creamy layer not applicable on SC/ST quota. Now listen to me very carefully, okay? You see, the thing is that in our country there is caste-based reservations, right? One is for SC/STs, the other is for OBC. Now in case of OBCs, there is this concept called creamy layer. People who are well off but belong to OBC caste, well, they won't be given OBC reservation benefits. But this creamy layer concept is not applicable to SC/ST. Even if you come from an elite economic background but you are by caste an SC or ST, then you are eligible for reservation. Okay. Now there was a PIL, public interest litigation, in the Honorable Supreme Court asking for creamy layer concept in Supreme SC/ST reservation as well. Okay. Now the Supreme Court asked for central government's response on this PIL. What the central government has to say. So central government gave its response. They gave their counter argument, okay, in an affidavit submitted to the Honorable Supreme Court. And in that counter argument, well, the central government has said that creamy layer concept does not apply to SC/ST reservation, because the idea behind SC/ST reservation was never economic. It was social, okay, social discrimination. SC/STs still face discrimination even though their economic background is great. So people from good economic backgrounds, from SC/ST community, still face some societal discrimination. Therefore, well, there is no economic basis for SC/ST reservation. Hence, there is no creamy layer concept for SC/ST reservation. This is the crux of the argument given by central government. So let's look at this argument in detail, right? So let's begin. So creamy layer not applicable on SC/ST quota. Okay. Now, in a counter affidavit filed before Supreme Court, Ministry of Social Justice gave their argument that creamy layer does not apply. What has been the central government's argument? Well, the basis for SC/ST reservation is historical and social basis. Affirmative action cures untouchability and isolation. It is not an income-based reservation. Okay. Then constitutional mandate. Yes, the central government is very clear on this. Central government says that Article 341 and 342 allows President to create a list of SCs and STs. Okay. Any inclusion or exclusion from this list of any community, caste community or tribal community in this list shall be only done via a law made by Parliament. Okay. Now this is the constitutional duty of President and Parliament. Judiciary should not interfere in this matter, because that would be a case of judicial overreach, and we follow a system of separation of powers. Judiciary operates in its own domain, Parliament operates in its own domain, Executive operates in its own domain. They should not encroach in each other's domain, and central government's argument is that if judiciary enforces this creamy layer concept on the central government, well, that would be judicial overreach, right? Because we follow separation of powers. Make sense? Without empirical study, without historical data, without a proper study, how can Supreme Court do this? This is the argument given by center, okay? So for versus against argument, the person who filed this PIL, Upadhyay, he was asking for introducing income-based preference across all reserved categories for OBC, ST, ST, EWS. Exclude socially, economically advanced SC/ST individuals. So his argument is that those SC/ST individuals whose families have already taken reservation benefits or who are economically advanced, they should be excluded from this creamy layer concept. But the center said SC/ST discrimination operates independently of income. High income SC/ST individuals still face discrimination, so reservation is required. Courts cannot issue a writ of mandamus. Mandamus writ is issued by the High Court and Supreme Court when they order the government to do something, to perform their duty. So central government is saying this is a case of judicial overreach. You cannot issue mandamus writ because this is completely the domain of executive and parliament. Don't interfere. Okay. Now, to understand this in a better way, well, central government also cited in its affidavit, they cited previous Supreme Court judgments. Central government has said that our argument is based upon previous Supreme Court judgments. Okay, what are these judgments? Well, there are 4 important judgments. Their details are given in this table, and this table is shared in your notes, so do check it out. Okay, now if we are talking about the concept of creamy layer, and creamy layer is applicable to OBCs, we should do a proper comparison of SC/ST reservation and OBC reservation, right? So what is this reservation? Let's talk about this. Okay, so over here it's OBC, over here it's SC/ST. So primary basis of OBC reservation, social and educational backwardness. For SC/STs, it's historical prejudice. So it has historical basis. This doesn't have any historical basis. Okay, creamy layer applicability is there in OBCs, not applicable in SC/STs because it has a historical basis. We are trying to undo historical injustice. Inclusion exclusion authority. Central and state backward classes commissions can include a particular caste or exclude it from the OBC list. Parliament alone can include or exclude a particular community from SC/ST list. Okay. Constitutional mandate, representation in public services and education, social equality, that is familiar to all. Okay, so this is a comparison. Now, what should be the way forward to resolve this deadlock? Because reservation has become a huge debate now, especially in educational institutions. So what is the way forward? Well, that is given in your notes. Do check it out. It's very easy to understand. Okay, and now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is India needs the Arctic region. Now you know about the Arctic region, North Pole, and Antarctic region, South Pole, right? Now as far as the Antarctic region is concerned, there is no country's sovereign control over the Antarctic continent, Antarctica, right? So any research activity or any activity in Antarctica is governed by an international treaty called Antarctic Treaty, right? But the Arctic region has various countries and they have sovereign control over there. Russia is there, Norway, Sweden, all these countries are there, okay, Finland. Now, well, Arctic region is also very important, and in this current climate of climate change, well, Arctic region has become extremely important geopolitically, research-wise, and when it comes to resources. It has become extremely important. Now, it has become extremely important for the entire world. Great powers are increasing their investments in Arctic region. So how can India be left behind? India should also increase its investments. Now, a parliamentary committee was formed in Parliament which investigated into this matter, and they have talked about the problems in India's Arctic policy and the solutions, right? So in this topic, we will talk about, first of all, why Arctic region is important, then what problems were identified by this parliamentary committee, and what solutions they have proposed. We'll talk about all these things because it is important, right? So let's begin. So India needs the Arctic region. Okay. So Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs submitted a report, India's role and presence in Arctic and Antarctic regions, coming 4 years after the release of India's Arctic policy. So India has a proper foreign policy, India-Arctic policy. Okay, so they have reported on this policy. Now, first of all, you need to look at Arctic region on a map. This is how the North Pole looks from top of the globe. Okay, so you can see the surrounding countries, Russia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Greenland, Canada, USA. USA because of the Alaska region. Now, this is the Arctic region. Remember. Now, why has this region become important? Okay, first of all, because of climate change, because of global warming, ice sheets are melting. And it has been found that there are a lot of hydrocarbons, oil and gas reserves buried inside or buried deep inside these ice sheets. Now, when these ice sheets would melt, these hydrocarbon reserves would come out. Whichever country is capable of exploiting these oil and gas, oil and gas reserves, well, that country would earn a lot of revenue, would earn a lot of money. So there is this resource competition, right? The other competition is with respect to shipping routes. A ship cannot go from Russia to USA because this area is frozen. But if this area is going to melt, new shipping routes, shorter shipping routes would open up. And whoever controls these shipping routes, well, would control a lot of economic trade. So this is there. Plus for India, Arctic region controls the climate of the entire globe. In fact, the climate or climatic things happening in the Arctic region, well, can impact India's monsoons. So India needs to invest heavily as far as research and development in the Arctic region is concerned. Okay, these are the three reasons for India also. Now, as far as India's Arctic engagement is concerned, well, there is a proper timeline. Okay, historical basis, in 1920, Svalbard Treaty was signed. In 1920, India was under British dominion. And being a part of that dominion, India was one of the 14 countries to sign this historical document, Svalbard Treaty. Svalbard is a region in Norway, Arctic region. And well, being a part of this treaty allows Indians to go to Svalbard region visa free for research and commercial activities. Okay. And for that, India established its own research station called the Himadri Research Station in Svalbard region. So this is there. Now, after 2022, we have a proper Arctic policy also. And today in 2026, well, a parliamentary committee has identified critical gaps as well as solutions to those gaps. We'll come to these gaps. Okay. But this is the thing. Now, why is Arctic region significant for India? We have talked about this. The triad of India's Arctic interests. Number one, climate security. There is an Arctic monsoon connection, coastal sea level rise, glacial melt linkage. Okay, the more glaciers in Arctic region would melt, well, it would have an impact on India's glaciers, Himalayan glaciers as well. Geopolitics, strategic presence of USA, Russia, and now even China. China wants to build a polar Silk Road, trying to control the shipping routes, which we talked about. And economic and energy, Northern Sea Route, the shipping route, access to critical minerals. Remember, oil and gas and some critical minerals, oil and gas reserves. This is why it is important. Now, as per this report, what are the key structural deficits and way forward? Number one deficit, governance and fragmentation. Look over here. Fragmented governance. Well, the thing is that Arctic region comes under Ministry of External Affairs. Let me write over here. Ministry of External Affairs. And there are 4 divisions within Ministry of External Affairs that handle Arctic region, different aspects of Arctic region. So there is no coherence, synergy. Okay, they are operating in their own silos. So we need a proper polar ambassador, which would handle the Arctic region, one single point of contact for Arctic region. Okay, no fragmentation, unified. Then, India's research in Arctic region is only confined to the coastal Svalbard region. Because we are not venturing out into deep oceans of Arctic region, Arctic Ocean. Why? Because we do not have polar research vehicles. Polar research vehicles are those vehicles which can cut through ice sheets. We do not have this. So there is an urgent requirement to procure a polar research vehicle or make it yourself under Make in India. We need to expand our research, not confine it to the coastal region only. Then severe budgetary shortfall. The budget is very low, so allocate more money for Arctic region. Okay. So this is something that, the gaps and the solutions provided by parliamentary committee. Now, a brief comparison of India and China in Arctic region. China is our strategic competitor. We need to be watchful of what China is doing in every region of the world. So India has observer nation status in Arctic Council. Arctic Council is a council of Arctic countries. Well, China has been given the status of near Arctic state, better than observer status. Okay. Then institutional lead, well, Ministry of Earth Sciences and Ministry of External Affairs handles this. There is a dedicated ministry. There is a polar ambassador in case of China. India does not have a polar vessel. China has multiple polar research vessels. Research footprint, we only have one station, Himadri. China has many stations. Diplomatic representation, handled across multiple MEA, Ministry of External Affairs divisions. Dedicated high-level polar official or polar ambassador, which was being referred to by the parliamentary committee. China already has it, right? So this is there. Okay, that's about it. That's all you need to know as far as this news item is concerned. And now let's quickly shift our focus to last news item of the day, and that is Pakistan, Saudi, Turkey Defense Pact. Recently, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have concluded a defense pact called the Mecca Pact. And the most threatening provision for India of this defense pact is, well, an attack on one country would mean an attack on all, and therefore all the other countries would come to the rescue of that one country. So if tomorrow India attacks Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Turkey should come to fight with Pakistan against India as per this agreement, right? Now this is threatening for India because India considers Saudi Arabia to be its ally in West Asia, like UAE. So this would further distance us from Saudi Arabia. right? And getting the support of Turkey would definitely embolden the ambitions of Pakistan when it is fighting against India next time, right? It would get the required support. Already it has the support of China. So this is really threatening. So first let's talk about why this pact. Why do the three countries need this pact? Why have they signed this pact? Okay, and then we'll talk about its implications for India, right? So let's begin. So Pakistan, Saudi, Turkey Defense Pact. So, well, it is known as the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement signed by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Shahbaz Sharif and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Now, why these three countries? Okay, what would be the role of each of these three pillars, these three countries? So Saudi Arabia would provide the necessary money for weapons, economic engine and capital provider. So if Pakistan wants to procure some weapons or build military infrastructure, Saudi Arabia would be for that. And that is for Turkey as well. If Turkey needs some more money, Saudi Arabia would provide that. Pakistan has nuclear capabilities. That is Pakistan's contribution to this defense pact. Plus it has an operational military base, it has a trained military, professional military, so it would be providing that. What is Turkey's role? What is Turkey bringing to the table? Well, Turkey is a member of NATO, and NATO countries have advanced American weaponry, European weaponry, right? These advanced weapons, how to operate them, how these advanced platforms, military platforms, plus Turkey has an advanced defense military industrial complex. Turkey has very big factories that produce NATO grade weapons. These weapons can be useful for both Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and Turkey has the industrial base to manufacture them. Money would be provided by Saudi Arabia, but Turkey has the capacity to manufacture them. So each of these members is contributing something to this pact, right? So key provisions, number one, collective deterrence. What are the key provisions? An attack on one would be considered attack on all. Number two, defense cooperation. All three countries would cooperate to produce new weapons, do research and development on innovative weapons, okay? Technology sharing, non-public document structure. Well, people are calling this alliance as the Islamic NATO. Okay? Though NATO has everything, I mean, NATO has released their governance structure in public. Well, they are silent. Mecca agreement people are silent. They have not released much in the public. What would be the dynamics of this agreement? Nothing. The nitty-gritties of this agreement has not been revealed to the public. And it has open membership. Remember, people are calling it Islamic NATO for a reason. Turkey has announced that in future, other countries can join this. Maybe Muslim countries only, maybe West Asian countries only for West Asian security. You never know. But it has an open membership clause. Now, why did these three countries join this agreement? Okay, what were the reasons for Saudi Arabia? Well, Saudi Arabia needs to protect itself from Iran. So it needs Pakistan's nuclear umbrella and Turkey's advanced weaponry. Okay. Turkey feels Israel is its new rival. So it needs allies in the West Asian region to deter Israel. And Pakistan, well, would act as a node, and Pakistan has an India angle as well. So this is the thing, right? Now, remember I called this agreement as the Islamic NATO. So we need to compare it with NATO, right? So a proper clause by clause or point by point comparison of NATO and Mecca agreement. So core principle is same, collective deterrence. Operational command, they have not released where would be their operational command would be. Well, NATO's operational command, integrated military command structure is there. People from different NATO countries operate in synergy. Clarity of response, it has a proper clarity. I mean, NATO releases public documents. Mecca agreement is secret. Nuclear dimension, Pakistan is nuclear armed. Okay. And NATO also has nuclear armed nations, US, UK, France. Defense industry focuses heavily on joint production. Extensive standardized defense production. That is not important, but this is the comparison. Now, impact on India. What will be its impact on India? First of all, we consider Saudi Arabia to be our ally. Plus, Saudi Arabia is very important for this ambitious India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC. Now, if Saudi Arabia is going to side with Pakistan, it would be very difficult for India-Saudi friendship, and it would throw India's West Asia policy in a conundrum. Okay, where to go now? This Pakistan, Turkey, China axis. Now Saudi Arabia is going to join it, and this axis is really problematic for India. This is a problem. Then again, dilemma for India's link west policy. If tomorrow India creates this corridor, and India's ships rely heavily on this corridor, and then India attacks Pakistan or Pakistan attacks India, and Saudi Arabia closes down this corridor, closes down or starts bombing Indian ships, well, this is a problem. And defense tech and Kashmir dynamics. So far, India managed, because India has good relations with Saudi Arabia and UAE. Well, Saudi Arabia and UAE have been silent on Kashmir. Now they might raise their voices. Not UAE, but Saudi Arabia. And defense technology is also there. Plus, Saudi Arabia would provide the economic, because Pakistan is struggling economically, right? So Pakistan does not have money to procure advanced weaponry. Saudi Arabia is going to provide for that. Threat for India, right? That would be all. So with that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. Now, your job is to stay consistent and regular with this lecture series and revise this lecture from the notes provided by us. Do these two things positively. On that note, I shall take your leave with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.